Why did Paul perform miracles throughout the Acts period? And so, if we look at the chart, um, just to highlight what we're talking about here is so if you think about Acts 1 to Acts 28, the Acts period, the question that the listener is asking is why did Paul perform miracles during that time? So, get with me, if you would, Romans 11. We'll start there. Romans 11, verse 13. Romans chapter 11, verse 13. For I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify mine office. Now, of course, we understand Paul's an apostle. He's the apostle of the Gentiles, in contrast to Peter and the 12, who were apostles to the nation of Israel. But we see that Paul was an apostle. Now, get 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 12. 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 12. Truly, the signs of an apostle were wrought among you in all patience, in signs and wonders and mighty deeds. Now, what that verse tells you is that an apostle has signs. There are signs of an apostle because it's something that an apostle possesses. Get Hebrews 2, verse 3. Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 3. How shall we escape if we neglect so great salvation, which at the first began to be spoken by the Lord, and was confirmed unto us by them that heard him? Notice verse 4. God also bearing them witness. How did God do that? Both with signs and wonders, and with diverse miracles, and gifts of the Holy Ghost according to his own will. What I want you to notice in Hebrews 2, verses 3 and 4, what was the purpose of God giving signs and wonders? It was a way for him to bear witness to the spokesman on his behalf that were speaking the truth. Get Acts 14, verse 3. Acts chapter 14, verse 3. And while you're turning there, I'll just make this point. If you think of even simply like the example of Moses, when Moses goes in before Pharaoh, what does God give Moses? He gives him signs to demonstrate the authenticity, to lend credibility to the message that's being spoken. Acts 14, verse 3. Long time, therefore, abode they speaking boldly in the Lord, notice, which gave testimony unto the word of his grace. So God gave testimony. How did he do that? And granted signs and wonders to be done by their hands. And that is a reference to Paul and Barnabas. Look with me at Romans 15, 18. Romans 15 and 18. For I will not dare to speak of any of those things which Christ hath not wrought by me, to make the Gentiles obedient by word and deed, through mighty signs and wonders by the power of the Spirit of God, so that from Jerusalem and round about unto Illyricum I have fully preached the gospel of Christ. So what was the original question? The original question was, why did Paul perform miracles through the Acts period? Well, what we've seen is Paul is an apostle. He's the apostle of the Gentiles. An apostle has signs. And what is the reason that God gives these signs? It's to bear witness. It's to confirm what's being spoken. Now, if you think about Paul just for a minute, does Paul have a very controversial message? And the answer is yes, he does. Because he comes along and he says something that is contrary to what had been spoken in Israel for 2,000 years, right? So if someone comes along and does that, what will be the initial reaction of most people that hear him? Well, this guy's crazy, right? He's saying things that are completely at odds with what was spoken previously, at least in some respects. So God gave Paul the signs of an apostle in order to validate, in order to confirm his ministry. So that's why Paul performed miracles throughout the Acts period.